Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the co-owner and creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to chat with you about why anxious preoccupied attachment styles often feel sort of enslaved by their feelings. Sometimes we'll hear things like the anxious preoccupied individual gets feelings so quickly, they feel imprisoned by them or helpless to them to a certain degree, almost like an limerence type of reaction where their feelings are overwhelming, they feel overcome by them. And when there seems to be a threat to the relationship to a certain degree, or there's a potential of a disconnect, often as well, the anxious individual feels like they're sort of helpless to all the anxiety that comes up and all these challenges that are coming to the surface. So I'm going to do a series for this video, just like I did in the previous videos, because there's honestly a lot of information. We have tons of tools inside the school about this, like in depth to the core, and how to reprogram it with like hours of content that works extremely well. So there's that resource if you need it. And we're also offering scholarships. We have 25% off coupons right now for a stay-at-home sale just to support our community during this time of isolation. The coupon code is with you. It's all one word. So we are supporting you guys. Like if you want a lot more in-depth stuff here, you can also reach out to my team and like work out any scholarship stuff. But for the sake of this video series, I'm still going to try to break it down so that you have some deeper understanding and awareness of what's actually going on beneath the surface and what you can do about it, because these things are changeable. Like, we're not born with our attachment styles, and they get programmed into us in childhood usually, and usually between the ages of 0 to 2, our initial attachment style is already formed. But our initial attachment style can change over time. It can change because of long-term relationships we're in, and it can be reprogrammed into a secure attachment style. And so, we have neuroplasticity, we have neurogenesis, we have all these things that are taking place, and our brain can change the way that it operates and interacts if we learn certain tools. So I'm just putting that out there because I think a lot of people sometimes get their hands on different resources, and it's like, your attachment style is your attachment style. Marry somebody secure. And we get these sort of half solutions to things. And that's just not true. Like, our subconscious mind, we can reprogram, we can change things. There are so many versions of this. And I've seen this hundreds, if not thousands of times. And I'm seeing this major transition amongst tons of people inside of our school as they dive into the content. So, and my attachment style has been very much reprogrammed as well. So, I just don't want you to think like you're not born with these things, so you can change them. You didn't come into the world with them, so you can reprogram and repattern them and change the dynamic that you've had programmed into you in the first place, right? You just need a specific set of awarenesses in order to make this happen. And one other thing I'll say is, like, how many of you guys have heard of people who are maybe anxious and they get into a relationship with a secure person and they're like, oh yeah, after a few years, I just sort of became secure too. Why? What you'll notice is people will say, oh, because my needs are met by the secure person, but you'll actually see that your needs, you start to feel calmer over time, and that intense desire to attach and to connect actually starts to dissipate, or not even go away, like dissipate like that, but balance out. And the reason is because over time, you've reprogrammed your relationship with that person and what a relationship means to you at a subconscious level. And your fears start to go, your needs start to be met, you start to feel safer having those needs and communicating them more vulnerably. So all these things start to take place. And this is why people are like, oh, get with somebody secure, because that actually allows you to have a healthy relationship. The secure person isn't like doing all the work on behalf of both people, and everything's just on their plate for the entire duration of the relationship. What's happening is they're actually showing you healthy tools and skills for relating, and they're showing up effectively and safely enough over time that a lot of those core wounds and fears start to be deprogrammed as a result of that consistent repetition that's reinforcing new neural pathways to take place. So I know I'm kind of ranting about this right now, but I've had so many people talk to me in the past few days and say things like, I've heard that you can't change your attachment style, or I've heard I should just marry a secure person. And I just don't want people to be left without information, because it's so disheartening and so unfair to the individuals that think that, like, this is it, this is your attachment style and you're stuck this way forever. It's just not true. So it doesn't mean that it's an overnight change, like you just reprogram and tomorrow you're good, but you can change pretty quickly if you really do a deep dive and if you show up and you're consistent. So don't think that you're just going to be stuck in a certain pain point or painful ways of relating forever, because that's a very limited piece of information. And that's also the information that we get when we're just targeting the conscious mind. When you bring the subconscious mind and neuroplasticity into the equation, you'll start to realize, oh, wow, this is like very changeable. I'm just getting a limited perspective on a lot of it. So I apologize for ranting, but I want you guys from my heart to like know that you don't have to be in pain in your relationships forever. It's just not true. And I hope you don't fall into that space of, and you know, it's not your fault if you've been living this way for a long time. These were your patterns, your programs that you didn't ask for. But again, they're changeable. So let me talk about the specifics of the video. I'll probably give that same rant for fearful avoidance as well and for dismissive avoidance, because I just want to make sure people have the right access to the correct information from sort of the deepest perspectives possible in that area. So let's talk about it. So why do you have activating strategies that come on so hard? Or more like, why do you get so anxious? It's because you have these really strong activating strategies that arise as a behavioral response to unconscious fears that you're keeping stored beneath the surface. So just like I was doing the series on dismissive avoidance and how they have their deactivating strategies and they sort of get like in this trance-like state, when they get so consumed by them, they don't even realize that these things can be poked holes in and that they're just automatic thoughts that are the result of old programs being activated and this offshoot or output that comes with those old programs. I'm going to break this down right now and tell you what this means. So for example, you feel really anxious, you feel helpless to your feelings or enslaved, and you have this activating mode where you just feel like, I need to reach out to somebody, I need to connect with them right now, and there's all this intensity behind it. What's actually happening before that need has become so strong? Well, what's happened is because you have this subconscious set of programs that you see relationships through. It's like these programs create the perceptual filter of your reality and relationships. Somebody pokes one of these programs, they trigger you essentially. This is what triggering is. It's somebody touching an old wound that hasn't been resolved, that you stored as a trauma from some long period ago or even recent period ago. And all of the emotion is still attached to these beliefs and old wounds that you've accumulated over time and stored in your subconscious mind. And so somebody pokes it, and you're not just experiencing the painful emotion from this instant right now when the person didn't call you back, for example. You're experiencing the emotion from this instant right now when the person didn't call you back, plus all the subconsciously stored unresolved pain that's now flooding to the surface because your brain goes, oh, this feels familiar. What are associations around this? And your brain, as an association-making machine, opens its filing cabinet in the subconscious with the conscious mind. And it's like, oh, all these abandonment wounds and all these painful moments and all these sort of terrible things. And so you have stored these imprints in your own mind from past experiences that are usually, for the anxious preoccupied specifically, things like, I'm not good enough, I will be abandoned, I will be alone. When I'm alone, I'm unsafe. I can't trust people to stick around, and sort of these painful imprints about yourself and what it means to relate to others. And so what happens is these old stories get triggered. And as soon as they do, if you pay close attention to your internal dialogue when these things are triggered, it's like somebody takes your internal dialogue and hits the like fast forward button where your thoughts start speeding up. They start becoming quicker. They start becoming more intense and thoughts create emotions. So if you pay very close attention, if you could imagine that you almost slow down your brain and you're watching thought by thought passing along, what's happening is the person doesn't call you back. And before you get really triggered and really distressed, you're like, oh, the person's not calling me back. And your brain gives it meaning. It doesn't go, oh, they're not calling me back. They're probably busy, but they still love me very much and everything's great. Your brain doesn't tell that story, or you wouldn't feel bad. Your brain tells a story instead that goes, they're not calling me back. They're going to leave the relationship. I'm about to be rejected. I'm about to be abandoned. I'm about to be, and it may not be exactly those thoughts, but some variant of that type of thinking and those thought patterns. And then what happens? Well, thoughts produce emotional reactions. So thinking those thoughts, what type of feelings do you start feeling? Anxiety, fear, distress, sadness, despair. And then your behaviors are used to basically deal with your emotions. So neuroscience has even proven that every single decision we make is actually based on our emotions. And even those of us who think that we're very logical and rational still make emotionally based decisions at our tipping point, and then we're just quick to rationalize or justify them through logic. So here you've got your pattern. You've got this old wound that gets poked. All this emotion comes to the surface. This emotion triggers these stored associations of painful patterns of thought, like I'm about to be abandoned, something bad's going to happen. And these thoughts produce more emotional reactions. And all of a sudden, you start having these behaviors to try to stop that painful emotion. And usually, the behaviors that you've learned in your environment are to reach out to others and to soothe through others. Because for you, at different points along your life, that seemed to be what worked. And even though it was really painful when somebody wasn't there, you at least built in positive associations to soothing through others. And you felt like that was one way. So then your brain, when it can't soothe through others, starts really spiraling, because now you've got more meaning you're giving, and it becomes this vicious cycle, right? It's like I have this painful wound that's triggered. It creates more negative patterns of thought and fear-based thinking. I give it more painful meaning, right? Like the person didn't call me back. It doesn't mean like they're busy and we're great. It means something bad's going to happen, right? And then those thoughts create those emotional reactions. Those emotional reactions create these behaviors designed to try to relieve you of those painful emotions. And usually those behaviors don't work right away, or they at least don't work on your time. Sometimes the person will call you back all of a sudden and be like, everything's fine, but a lot of times it doesn't go that way. So now you give more meaning to the lack of contact the more time that goes on. And so you get locked in this spiral. So here's the thing. This is already a long video, and I'm going to make this into a series, but I want you to first be able to like deeply observe your patterns. So I would even recommend writing out like the different patterns of thought that you find. And I'm not going to go into like all the reprogramming tools and all the different things you can do, because there's just not enough time period for that. But what I will do is give you some initial high-level strategies that you can start trying to apply to your life and start sort of digging more deeply into deeper forms of self-awareness. I'm not going to give you all the background and reprogramming and how this all works and what to do, but I am going to be like, here are some things you can do step by step to start breaking that pattern down. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means. So stay tuned for the next video. Get really clear on what your pattern is. I hope this makes sense. I know I kind of like repeated it a little bit because it's deep information. I want to make sure it's clear to everybody. So look for things like, what feelings do I feel when I start getting activated? And what types of thought patterns do I have? And then what do I feel, and what behaviors do I use to try to cope with those emotions? And if those behaviors don't work, what types of thought patterns do I have? And it's really important when you're trying to change anything at the subconscious level, because this is all happening subconsciously or automatically without your conscious mind being like, I should think this way. I should think that I might be abandoned. That's not happening with like your conscious mind say. It's not intentional. It's not conscious. So in order to first create major resolution, we have to get majorly clear about what's going on beneath the surface. And we have to really be able to observe our own mind in this space. So start there. Stay tuned for the next video. And if you're getting a lot of value out of this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video.